Well, good morning, everybody. I'm Jan Erickson. I write the blog Stepping Aside over at imsteppingaside.com. I'm going to do another Rune and Tarot, or Tarot and Rune. We'll start with the Tarot for today. I hope everybody had a lovely weekend. My husband and I planted the rest of our tomatoes and our peppers. Well, not all the peppers. You know, sometimes things grow really well and you don't realize you're going to have as many as you're going to have, but I don't even know. The tomatoes are I think there's either 12 or there could be 15 out there in the dome. I don't remember because we planted them in stages, a few at a time. Here, you don't really, we're at 3,000 feet, so you have to be kind of careful. We bought more frost blankets, so in case it doesn't look like, though, from the weather report that we're going to have any frost. Typically, we'd have it around Memorial Day, around the full moon, but that would be our last big one. Last year, I think it got down to like 28, you know, and that was awful. But I didn't have any tomatoes in the ground at that time. The first set got bit a little bit, but they're coming back, so it's okay. Because it didn't get down to 32, so I didn't worry about it, but we had wind, so there you go. But anyway, they're all in there, and everything looks really nice. And because Jerry started them back in January, they're super huge, like, 3 feet tall. So, and some of them have tomatoes on them already. And they're the Big Mom Aroma variety. If you've never had those, aromas are paste tomatoes, so they're good for sauces and stuff. So I make my pasta sauces out of them. But these things are huge. I mean, I kid you not. They're like as big as my fist or bigger because my hands aren't that big. But they're huge. And the seeds are just right in the center, and they're in this gel stuff. So it's mostly tomato, and they sauce up really nice. So I highly recommend them. The other one I found about the same time was a green bean. I'd always grown bush beans because I like the fillets. I don't like the pole beans because they're just, thready and woody, and I don't like them. And I don't like the big seeds. Well, I found this one called Fortex, Fortex, and various, online seed companies have it now. But it's a pole bean, but it's a fillet, but it's huge. I mean, the seed, the pods get to be, yay long. I mean, they're all meaty, and the beans in them they're hardly even there. This time I just went ahead and bought more because trying to grow them, it'll look like there's a bean in there, but there's nothing. So I don't know if that's just a function of the breeding or something. I don't know that happens when they make this stuff, but I finally found one. And I don't have to do bush beans anymore. So I've grown these things now. This, I think, is my 4th season. And they're starting to come up, and it's really cool. So they're very prolific, and they're great. So something just happened there. Maybe I got mail. Oh, how fun. So, okay, let's count 13. 2, 3, 4, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. See, 13's my number, so I was born on the 13th. I mean, other people don't do this, but I do. Oh, well. So, and, well, a little bit of sand there. She's got 8 swords, downward into earth. She's bound. And swords is the air element, and so it's about our intellect, communication, things like that, our intellectual presence in the world. And basically what the 8 of Swords is saying is that we're allowing our thoughts to control us, and we can't really see the forest for the trees. We're bound by our own process, our own thought process. So today we don't really want to do that, do we? I mean, we always do, don't we? Let's consult my little grimoire to see if there's anything else I forgot. I mean, it can be outside obstruction that we're experiencing, but honestly, I think if we continually, unless we know there's something like that happening, I mean, pay attention. So maybe it's something happening from the outside, but typically this is about our own internal process. I just look at divination tools like runes and tarot and whatnot. I I just look at that as more about an internal thing, and not so much about what's happening in the external world. Although, you know, it can be. This can also be that you just can't make up your mind. You've got all these, you know, but the thoughts are getting in the way of the solution, basically. So it could also mean that we're not paying attention to the things we need to get done. You know, things we need to take care of. We got a lot of things building up behind us, and we're refusing to see it. But I think the most brutal thing that happens to us is when we do this to ourselves. There's a castle off in the distance, and she can't even see it. She can't see what she has. So now we'll let the runes say something today and see what that is. Oh, I love this one. Awas. Awas is a cool rune. It represents to me as above, so below, the connection between spirit and form. So, Awas. Awas is the 13th rune. See, I love her 13. It's the 13th rune of the Elder Futhark. It's a fire rune. It's the rune, considered the rune of paradox, the connection between opposites, as I said, as above, so below. It's also considered an air element rune. I've seen it written both ways, described both ways. This brings in spirit into form. Well, it does if you hold it right. It brings in spirit into form. It brings the energy of spirit into form, which obviously we're going to need because we're blocking our own process today. But you see, here's another thing about this card. You see how the swords are pointing downward? Now, when I look at directionality, okay, and especially with respect to swords, if swords are pointing downward, then the focus is on ego. I mean, that's a simple way of looking at it. I mean, you can look at it a little differently, but it can be, you know, more complex than that. But say it's ego, all right? If the swords are pointing upward, then there's a focus there, at least somewhat on spirit, or at least a desire to, or reaching out for spirit. So right here, if we're blocking our own process, then we're not allowing spirit to inform us. Okay. Now, some people might look at it going downward as that is drawing spirit down, but I don't. I especially since it's piercing the earth, I view it as ego. Okay, and ego's getting in the way. Here with Awas, it brings spirit into that to try to inform us that, hey, this, we shouldn't be doing this. Don't let our thoughts, you know, let spirit inform instead of the ego. You're much better off. So basically, this helps us understand fate and guard against self-destructive behavior. And if you're into trance work, this is also one to focus on. You can use Awas as a focus, so that you're, you know, aligning higher self energies with, you know, the ego or whatever. So the other thing that it can do by bringing spirit into our thought processes is it can turn a situation around that's negative, like here, into something positive. You know, really, this woman has forgotten who she is. She doesn't remember she's source energy. If she did, she wouldn't be blocking any thought process. And so what we have here is the answer then to that whole thing, because this facilitates that awareness, bringing spirit into our awareness. It's reminding us, hey, we're not this body. We're something else, something far greater. So for today, then, if we find that we're blocking our own thought processes, then we need to probably remember again who we are. You know, we are not these bodies. We're not this ego. we're spirit that's inhabiting this form for a short time. And consequently, if we could bring that awareness into our daily life, then I think that we would engage with the world, and we would also engage and experience something within ourselves that's more profound than the simple reactions to what we see going on around us. But you know, the biggest issue that we deal with is the self, even though we don't like to think that. You know, we want to blame everybody else, but really, we choose our responses. We choose how we see everything, and so it is what it is. So go forth on this Monday. Enjoy and unbound. So in any event, have a lovely day. Go work in the garden if you can. If not, when you get home from work, go spend some time outside, take a walk, take off your shoes, let the grass go through. We saw this great video on Facebook of babies when they first touch grass. And I'd forgotten this, you know, because my kids are in their 30s. But when you set them down, everyone would draw their feet up. It's just the funniest thing because they don't really know. It's like, what is that? What is that weird stuff? It's not solid, you know. It's like, what is that touching my feet? Anyway, you guys have a lovely Monday, and we'll see you tomorrow. Blessed be.